Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies. Sunward I have climbed and wheeled and soared and swung, high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I have chased the wind through the long, delirious, burning blue, and topped the heights with easy grace. Taken from the immortal sonnet High Flight, composed in 1941 by John McGee, a 19-year-old American fighter pilot, the words describe with remarkable similarity the lofty space so gracefully occupied by the American bald eagle. Since 1782, a symbol of strength in time of war, a symbol of freedom in time of peace. Today, the eagle continues to occupy a lofty place among past, current, and future generations of men, bound together by the oaths of loyalty, kind feelings, and expressed moral values observed within the time-honored ranks of scouting throughout the world. Within those ranks, there exists a continuing commitment to ensure the future values of young men by preserving the experiences of past generations. How can so daunting a task be accomplished? The answer may well be found in the ongoing efforts of a dedicated group of men from every walk of life, men who formed their lives and their futures on the rocky slopes of a small mountain in the Ozarks, near Hardy, Arkansas, at Camp Kia Kima, in the nest of the eagles. In 1916, shortly after the Chickasaw Council of the Boy Scouts of America was organized, Bolton Smith, a Memphis, Tennessee investment banker and the first president of the new Chickasaw Council, purchased and donated the original site of what would become known as Camp Kia Kima. Its name could hardly have been more fitting. Located on a bluff overlooking a pristine waterfront on the South Fork of the Spring River in Sharp County, near Hardy, Arkansas, Kia Kima, taken from the native language of the Chickasaw Indians, was the nest of the eagles. Through the years, the site became a center of camping and outdoor activities, where scouts could learn and grow. Kia Kima would soon attract other camps to the area, an instrumental step in the continued development of north central Arkansas. With World War II, came a shortage of supplies and scout leaders, many of whom answered the call to serve their country while the camp was closed. When it was reopened in 1948, Kia Kima once again met its challenge and its commitment to passing along the spirit of scouting and leadership. In 1948, the Chickasaw Council adopted the Order of the Arrow, a brotherhood of honor and achievement among scouts. The Order of the Arrow has played a major role in recognizing those scouts and leaders whose character and integrity best represent the Scout Law and the Scout Oath. With the tremendous growth of scouting programs in the 50s and 60s came the need for more camps to accommodate additional scout troops. As the area surrounding Kia Kima grew into a thriving resort community, John Cooper, an Arkansas businessman and developer of the Cherokee Village Resort, supported Kia Kima as a good neighbor. In 1963, Mr. Cooper recognized that Kia Kima needed more space. He responded by donating a 540-acre tract of land upriver in exchange for the original campsite. His construction crews built new facilities, roads, and a lake for the new Camp Kia Kima. As Cherokee Village continued to be developed in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, Old Kia Kima, its cabins, and surrounding buildings were abandoned. Left to the elements of weather and time, Kia Kima became a dumping site, deteriorated, overgrown, forgotten. Then, in 1993, a handful of former campers and staffers decided to meet at their old campsite. Saddened by what they found, each of the four remembered. They saw through the deterioration, the overgrowth of trees, vines, weeds, and neglect. Indeed, they remembered mentally capturing vividly clear pictures, even the sounds of a once thriving campsite with its postcard-perfect cabins symmetrically forming a quadrangle, active with excited, energetic voices, if only from the past. In those brief moments, these four men made what is surely to become an historic decision: to formally recapture, restore, and preserve not only the spirit, but also the physical presence of Old Kia Kima. Since that time, the Old Kia Kima Preservation Association has been chartered as a non-profit Arkansas corporation, now with almost 300 rediscovered names from the past, and a growing active membership of more than 100 former campers, staffers, and scout leaders. Every year since 1993, annual reunions have been held at the old campsite, organized under the leadership of a proactive group of officers and directors from every walk of life, all with the common goal of restoring Kia Kima as an historic site to be used for future leadership training and development. Organized restoration teams and work parties are now engaged in further clearing and cleanup efforts, and the rediscovery and preservation of bits and pieces of every cabin, even cataloging and storing hand-painted boards with names and dates of scout occupants from long past. These bits of history will once again become a part of every cabin, precisely fitted as they were before. As for the centerpiece of Old Kia Kima, it was the nest of the eagles, known and loved as the Thunderbird nest. Even today, its ghostly remains speak volumes, as if still in command of a solemn tradition that simply cannot be allowed to fade away. The Thunderbird nest will soon be restored as the crown jewel of Old Kia Kima. It will continue to occupy a lofty place where elder scouts and new generations can meet and consider what once was and what is to be. Its task is to bind us, one with another, to that unmistakable commitment long shared throughout the time-honored ranks of scouting, to ensure that young men and women of the future will have an opportunity to learn from the past. That commitment was clearly evidenced during the 1998 reunion of the Old Kia Kima Preservation Association. At the campsite, surrounded by fellow members, George Billingsley, the first waterfront director at Kia Kima immediately after World War II, and his wife, Boyce, presented to the group a clear title to 43 acres of the original campsite. Their unselfish gift of love represented a giant leap toward meeting one of the most difficult challenges ever faced by those who, like George Billingsley, had formed their lives and their futures on that small mountain in the Ozarks. In that one shining moment, another eagle soared. With a single gesture of kind feelings came a reaffirmation of every wish of every scout who ever passed through Kia Kima, to do all he could do, to be all he could be. For those who never had such opportunities, it is understandably difficult to explain or even imagine the experiences. Suffice to say, the stories lived and told and retold even today remain disarmingly simple. Boys came to that mountain. Time after time they learned from their scouting brothers, and when they grew, on eagle's wings, they flew from their mountain as men, destined to return, to rekindle the spirit of a time and place, where tiny stone cabins became pinnacles of faith, close to life and how to live it, filled with countless stories of Old Kia Kima, nest of the eagles. And so it was to be. Rekindling the spirit through the physical restoration of camp facilities was to begin, further inspired by also rekindling the core values held so dear by the men of Old Kia Kima: integrity, achievement, responsibility, and courage. These core values are the cornerstones of the spirit of Old Kia Kima. In the spring of 1999, Work began on the bathhouse of Old Kia Kima, with separate restroom facilities and hot showers on either side of a covered assembly area. Next came the restoration of 16 small stone cabins, originally constructed in 1916. All 16 were completely restored by the year 2000 to maintain the original character of the lodges. No electricity was incorporated into the restoration, thus allowing for a true camping experience. The following year, 2001, construction was completed on a beautiful group cooking and dining facility. The cooking area, lighted and vented, completely set up for charcoal grilling, Dutch oven cooking, or cooking with propane burners. In 2001 came the installation of a walk-in refrigerator freezer unit and a quartermaster's storage area as a support facility for the dining pavilion. All youth groups can use it upon request. At the same time, a much-needed camp office was completed in the same building. Then came the restoration of the Camp Staff Lodge, affectionately known as the Rat's Nest. It was dedicated to George Billingsley for his unselfish commitment to the new life of Old Kia Kima. In 2002, restoration was begun and completed on the crown jewel of Old Kia Kima, the Thunderbird Lodge. Originally built of native stone in 1926, restoration of this beloved building was in every respect a labor of love for the spirited handful of staffers from many years past. The Thunderbird Lodge houses the very spirit of Old Kia Kima. It functions as an inspirational site for court of honor ceremonies, leadership training. Also, in 2002, several other structures were completed. The old 97 covered bridge over Spirit Creek was built and dedicated by Troop 97 in honor of its past members and leaders. The pioneering pole barn was added, providing rope supplies, cedar poles for pioneering projects such as towers, rope poles, rope bridges. The campfire ring was completed that same year, seating more than 200, replete with a beautiful totem pole, built and installed by Troop 377 from Clarkston, Michigan. In the spring of 2005, the Ralph and Martha Jane Young Chapel was completed and dedicated to the memory of our Padre and his wife. Ralph was for many years the beloved camp director of Old Kia Kima. This rustic covered chapel is available for church vesper services, meetings, and meditation, surrounded by the quiet wooded setting of Spirit Creek. In 2007, the historic Old Camp Hospital was completely restored, with restroom, shower facilities, electricity. The old hospital is connected by a covered walkway at the southeast corner of the Thunderbird Lodge. Also in 2007, the Old Kia Kima Preservation Association acquired 5 acres of land and the old dining hall on the west side of the main camp. Completion of the restoration efforts brings Old Kia Kima full circle. Here, high above the South Fork of the Spring River, still another shining moment for a time and place. Young boys came here long ago to grow their wings, that they might fly from their mountain as men. Little did they realize that many years would pass before them until the circle joined again, and they would return to rebuild. Their mission, to preserve the place, honor the vision of all who have shared in the spirit of the South Fork waters, and provide an environment where elders may pass along knowledge and experience, enriching and shaping the lives of young people today. And so it goes, and so it is, a time and place. recaptured, embraced, and loved, that it might be passed on from generation to generation, each with a firm commitment from the brothers and sisters of Old Kia Kima, a commitment of love and kind feeling from one to the other for Old Kia Kima. Nest of the Eagles.